I call Paul Foster Bell.
E te mangai o te whare Māori ora e ngā mema tēnā koutou katoa. E te minita, tēnā koe. Sir, I'd like to begin by acknowledging our wonderful Minister of Conservation, the Honourable Maggie Barry, who does so much hard work protecting and defending the precious natural environment of our country. And I want to thank the member who just resumed his seat for the first 8 minutes or so of his contribution, which made perfect sense and which I agree with. But unfortunately, he spoiled his otherwise good contribution in the last couple of minutes by engaging in some unfortunate numerical inexactitude. This is a government which has invested considerably in extra support for our environment and making sure our department, who does such good work, has the tools they need and the resources they need, the staff power they need to get out and to protect our precious natural environment in New Zealand. Sir, I'm going to agree with the contribution made by the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta, who said that this bill was a good balance between the individual rights of New Zealand citizens going about their business, enjoying nature, but also the powers of rangers to be able to do something when they detect someone they suspect of violating the general principles and the specific laws that we have in place to protect our endangered species, all of our native species, our plants and our wildlife. Sir, this bill brings in a great level of power to allow a full-time state-employed ranger to not just ask for proof of ID, which was the previous situation, but now to be able to demand proof of ID, not just ask someone what their name and date of birth is, but to actually be able to demand it, and we're backing that up with the legal powers to do so. This is a huge gain, and this gives them a greater level of power than they've had in the last 60 years. But when we are giving search and stop powers, it is important that these come with a balancing level of control, and there are not for a voluntary ranger the levels of integrity and code of conduct controls that can be applied to someone who is in the service of the state, so someone who falls under SSC rules. So I think it is important that we do distinguish between an honorary ranger who does incredibly valuable work, as my colleague Scott Simpson, the chairman of the committee, said. It's not to underrate the work they do, but when we're giving powers that could be considered by some to be invasive, we balance that with a countervailing level of scrutiny. So this is something which, as a government, we've approached very carefully. We don't want rogue rangers, we don't want vigilante action, but this bill achieves a very good balance between those things. It was disappointing to hear a half-hearted, lukewarm and half-baked contribution from the Green Party, which I thought actually stood for protecting our environment in New Zealand, because this is a bill which significantly increases the powers of our hard-working rangers to be able to protect our natural environment, to protect endangered species. So it's disappointing to hear that from a party which purports to actually protect our environment. Mr. Speaker, this is a very good bill. It's a credit to a very fine minister, and I commend it to the House.
The next call.